Okay, students, once again welcome back to the class. And yesterday we were discussing more information or more thing about this pollen grains. Okay, so and this pollen grains they cause allergy and bronchial applications. Okay, and that leads to this respiratory disorders like the asthma and that of bronchitis. Okay. Further, let us see more thing about the pollen grains. Okay, and this example we can give here is Parthenium or carrot grass. Okay, which cause the allergy, which causes the allergy. Okay, and the next thing about pollen grains is that pollen grains are rich in nutrients. So they are used as food supplements. Okay, and it is claimed that or believed that pollen grains increase performance of athletes. Okay, so the other thing about pollen grains is that pollen grains are rich in nutrients. So that is why they are having a nutritive value, and therefore these pollen grains are used as a food supplement. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಹಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಪೂರಕವಾಗಿ ಅವುಗಳನ್ನು ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಬಳಸಲಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಇನ್ foreign countries. Okay, and these pollen grains are used in the form of tablets and syrups. Okay, pollen grains are available in the form of tablets and syrups, and it is believed or it is claimed that these pollen grains are going to increase or enhance the performance of athletes. Okay, you have heard about the athletes. Okay, the stamina is very much important and which is related to the performance. So these pollen grains are believed that increase the performance of these athletes and even in race horses. Okay, so that is one more thing about this what is that pollen grains. Okay, next, viability of pollen grains. Okay, viability means how long the pollen grains will survive. Okay, after their production. That is important, isn't it? Because they have to fall on the stigma surface and they have to germinate and they have to fertilize. Okay, for that fertilization, viability or survival of the pollen grains is very much essential. So let us know about viability. Viable means survive. Survive ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬದುಕಿರುವುದು. Okay? And viability of pollen grains. And it differs. Viability of pollen grains or survival of this pollen grains, it differs from species to the species. In some species they survive for a very short period, whereas in some other species they will survive for a long period. Okay? And this viability also depends on the depends on the prevailing is nothing but existing prevailing temperature. Okay, so the viability of the pollen grains, it depends on this prevailing or existing temperature and the humidity. And another thing is that some cereals like rice and wheat, okay, some cereals ಏನು ಧಾನ್ಯಗಳು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, like this rice and wheat, the pollen grains survive for about 30 minutes. Okay, pollen grain viability is of about 30 minutes. Viability is 30 minutes, so short. Fine. Okay, so in case of this rosaceae, leguminaceae and solanaceae. Okay, and solanaceae. The viability is of pollen grains is months. Okay, ತಿಂಗಳಗಟ್ಟಲೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ pollen grains viable ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ, survive ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ, so that the fertilization takes place. Okay, and this pollen grains, they can be stored. Pollen grains can be stored in liquid nitrogen at -196 degree Celsius temperature. Okay, so you see regarding the viability of pollen grains, it varies from species to species, and it depends on the prevailing or existing temperature and humidity. And another thing is that in case of these cereals like the rice and wheat, the pollen grains survive for 30 minutes, so that is a very short period. And in case of this Rosaceae, Leguminaceae and that of the Solanaceae families members, the viability of pollen grains is months. Okay, so months together we can preserve, or the pollen grains can be viable. Another thing about pollen grains is that as we store the semens or sperms, okay, for artificial insemination, okay, this semen or this sperms, that is male gamete in case of human beings, they are stored for longer period of time, okay, under certain conditions, and they are stored and preserved, and they are used whenever required for artificial insemination. Okay, so like that, these pollen grains can also be stored and preserved for a longer period of time, okay, in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees Celsius of temperature, and they can be used when they are required. So as we are having these seed banks wherein seeds are preserved, and like that we are having this pollen banks wherein pollen grains are reserved for many time, many period, okay, long period, and they are used when they are required. So that is another thing or another point about the what is that pollen grain. Okay, and next, so this is all about the what is that male reproductive structure, that is androecium, and that is stamen. Okay, and what we studied here is the structure of the stamen, structure of microsporangia, and microsporogenesis, that is production of microspores or pollen grain, and the structure of pollen grain. Okay, so now we have studied the structure of male reproductive system and the process of formation of male gamete, that is a male gametophyte, that is a pollen grains. So after this we will discuss about the female reproductive structure or part. Okay, that is a female reproductive part or structure, that is a pistil in detail. Okay, and also the formation of female gametes. Okay, and that we will discuss in the next class, and we conclude here. Okay, thank you.